the professors Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, Dr. Ranjit and Dr. Sendil Kumar have decided to invite the students of 12 city schools and 4 city colleges to participate in the discussion with the ultimate aim to inculcate the value of Indian Constitution to the young minds. But Raj Bhavan, through its action, advised us that there is no meaning to discuss with the people who are not aware of the fundamentals about Indian Constitution. That too, in the once in a year function, the Constitution Day. Therefore, we have decided to meet our beloved Honorable Chancellor himself while extending an invitation. Accordingly, we went to Raj Bhavan along with the Registrar Dr. Gauri Ramesh, where we could see him not only as our beloved Chancellor, but also as a renowned professor of law, where we could see him as a visionary, where we could see him as a statesman, where we could see him as a creative thinker, where we could see him as a futuristic, where we could see him as a far-sighted personality. Altogether, we could see him as a man endowed with all qualities to head the universities of the state. During the discussion, he made a candid statement to us in such a way that in this day, it is a duty of the law university to test the impact of the constitution of this country. In this day, it is a duty of the law university to examine how the constitution protects individuals. In this day, it is a duty of the law university to explore what extent the citizens of this country are safe under Indian constitution. In this day, the law university should discover how the constitution suits our country, etc., etc. For the want of time, I am unable to explain in detail. Accordingly, we too have decided to explore the constitution in all angles specified by our Honorable Chancellor under the leadership of Honorable Judges in the form of panel discussion and debate. In this great occasion, on behalf of Ambedkar Law University family and all who have assembled here, let me welcome wholeheartedly our Honorable Governor Chancellor of Tamil Nadu with a big clap. We have with us 3 judges. All are endowed with academic qualities in addition to judicious thinking. They love legal education. They love legal institutions. They love teachers. They love the students of legal institutions. And even they love to be with us to promote the legal education. First among them is Honorable Mr. Justice P.N. Prakash, who is always thirsty towards legal education. As per my close observation, a man who is not satisfied with the development of legal education in this state. He is an outstanding judge of Honorable High Court of Madras formerly. His service to the legal education is endless. Even he never hesitated to travel 100 kilometers for the sake of legal institution when he was a judge of Honorable Madras High Court. Even after demitting his office as judge, his service to legal education continues in every moment. That is why he has become a role model to many law teachers, including me. For the want of time, let me conclude and let us all together welcome him wholeheartedly for this coveted function. We have with us yet another judge, Honorable Mr. Justice Akbar Ali, the former judge of Madras High Court, popularly known as down-to-earth judge, who always deliver complete justice to this nation. His friendly relation with legal education keeps him in all our hearts. His presence in so many programs in law colleges and the law universities speaks all. He says no to anybody for any program connected with legal education. He strongly believes that Unless and until we strengthen legal education of this country, the entire system will get collapsed. His presence here to dissect the Indian Constitution as a moderator is yet another example. Lordship, the entire family of this university is wholeheartedly welcome you for this August function. We have with us yet another dynamic senior most judge of the subordinate judiciary, of course, who will shortly adorn as the chair of the High Court, who is none other than Mr. Lingeshwaran, a man till recently was shaping the young persons to suit the chair of a subordinate judge as well as judge of the society. As a chairman of State Judicial Academy, he has important, very good and outstanding work in that chair. His knowledge in law is marvelous. His approach towards legal education is reasonably noted. Sir, for the want of time, I don't want to narrate more about you. And on behalf of this university, I extend a warm welcome to this August function. We have with us yet another Principal District Judge of Nagarkovil, Sri B. Karthikeyan. He is also here on our invitation, and we are all, he happened to be the former law secretary. We have invited him for this program, and he is very kind enough to come from Nagarkovil to here. We have with us some outstanding personalities from different occasions as panel members. They are all really exceptional, marvelous, wonderful, and excellent in their respective field. For the want of time, the names of that 18 persons I could not mention, but this university wants to explore their idea on Indian Constitution and to see that what is their perception about Indian Constitution. This university happily welcome one and all panelists for this August function. This institution always care the students with utmost interest and keep concern about their future. I take this opportunity to welcome all the students for this great function. I welcome all who have assembled here to grace the occasion. And let me tell you that this is really an outstanding function where it is presided by our Honorable Chancellor. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. Expressing our gratitude and honoring our guests are the highly prioritized customs and culture of our nation. Now, I request our Vice Chancellor, sir, to honor our Honorable Governor Chancellor, sir, with a memento. Most respected, sir, kindly accept a small gratitude. Thank you, sir. Equality may be a fiction, but nonetheless, one must accept it as a governing principle. With the wordings of our Baba Sahib, now it's high time to discharge our duty by taking oath on the Constitution Day. Our Honorable Governor Chancellor, sir, will read the oath and all are required to repeat the same. Please, sir.
We'll take Constitution Day pledge today. I will read out and all of us may repeat it. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of our nation.
Thank you, sir. I request everyone to kindly be seated. A great man is different from an eminent one in that he is ready to be the servant of a society. As said by a great leader, students of the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University are the icons of eminent personalities in various categories. I, H.M. Srihari, from the 4th year BBA LLB Honours Department, take immense pride and pleasure in deliberating a speech on the topic, the Constitution, a memorable day. May I please take a moment to approach the dais. Honorable Governor Chancellor Sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, the dignitaries on and off the dais, respected teachers, and my dear friends present here, warm greetings to you all. Today, we gather here to commemorate a day that holds a great significance in the fabric of our society, the Law Day. Yes, 75 years ago, on this very day, the visionary leaders affixed their signatures to the Constitution of India. The architects of the Constitution demonstrated a profound comprehension in ensuring that the people of the nation enjoy a legal system that safeguards everyone's rights and liberties, ensuring that justice is not just a lofty ideal, but a tangible reality for every individual. Law Day is not just a date on the calendar, it is a day to remember and to appreciate the efforts of these Constitution framers who pledged to dedicate themselves in all humility to the service of India and her people. Their commitment to fairness and the pursuit of truth is the bedrock of our society, and we owe them a debt of gratitude for their tireless efforts. It is a day to recollect the vision of Mahatma Gandhi, who said back in 1931 that I shall strive for a constitution which will release India from thraldom and patronage. The Constitution of India reflects a blend of Western democratic principles and indigenous values, including the moral and ethical perspectives inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. Men are mortal, so are his ideas. An idea needs propagation as many plants need watering, otherwise both will wither and die. Law Day is the day to celebrate the legend who did not just let go of this vision of India having its own constitution just as an idea, but he worked towards it tirelessly with a commitment to build an egalitarian society. Yes, it is none other than Dr. B.R. Ambedkar who has left an enduring legacy shaping the constitutional framework that governs the world's largest democracy. It is a day to remember the architects of justice, the legal professionals, judges, and lawmakers who constantly strive for a society where justice is not just meant but served, and where the rule of law becomes a beacon that lights the nation's path towards a more just and equitable future. Above all, this day serves as a poignant reminder of the fundamental principles that are enshrined in the preamble and guide our legal system and in turn shape the very essence of our democracy. Justice Krishna Iyer, the Lordship, has written a book called Law versus Justice, which has a beautiful extract of Robert Ingersoll, which says that a government founded on anything except liberty and justice cannot stand. The Constitution framers granted the citizens of India the opportunity to establish a nation governed not by historical inequalities or by the personal whims of the dictators. Instead, they envisioned a democracy that is dynamic and is continuously aspiring to uphold the rule of law. It is a fitting day that on this Law Day celebrations, we remember that the rule of law is not just a concept that is confined to courtrooms or the legal chambers. It is a guiding force in our day-to-day lives. It is a commitment to treating each other with respect, dignity, fairness, irrespective of their differences. Let us take this day as an opportunity to deepen our understandings of the laws that govern our lives. Today, as we engage in conversations about the importance of legal education and legal awareness, let us empower ourselves and our communities to be informed and to take active participation in the democratic process. As a young budding law student, I, on this day, renew my dedication to the Constitution and its fundamental principles and request each one of you to continue uphold the ideals that make our society stronger and more resilient. Happy Law Day and Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sri Harini, for a pride, and thank you for your fantabulous speech.
Thank you, ma'am. On the eve of the Constitution Day, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University has arranged series of panel discussions and debates on varied aspects of the Constitution of India. I take it as a privilege and pleasure in inviting the Chief Guest, Honorable Governor Chancellor Sir, to inaugurate the Constitution Day program and to address the gathering with his presidential address. Please, sir.
Dr. N.S. Santosh Kumar, Vice Chancellor, Dr. Gauri Ramesh, Registrar, Dr. R. Srinivasan, Head of Department, Constitutional Law and Human Rights, Dr. A. Vijay Lakshmi, Chairman, Constitution Day Celebrations, distinguished former judges of Madras High Court, distinguished judges of mid-level judiciary, distinguished resource persons, invitees, my dear students, on the eve of the Constitution Day, my warmest greetings and best wishes to all of you. On this day, we pay our deepest and profoundest regard and express our gratitude to the founding fathers of our Constitution, who gave us a beautiful document, a visionary document, whose foresight, whose vision and hard labor produced it. We will ever remain indebted and grateful to Baba Saheb Ambedkar, the chairman of the drafting committee, and the entire Constituent Assembly, which together produced this sacred document. This day, we take pledge in the name of the Constitution to uphold the values enshrined in the Constitution. While there is every reason for us, and we must be very proud of it, the fact that this Constitution has held us in reasonably good shape. Our country has progressed, has been progressing. And today, we are growing at a speed and a scale. The world is looking at us with a lot of expectation to provide the leadership as well as provide a solution to many of the global problems. And we must credit the founding fathers of the Constitution who gave us this document to navigate the nation towards its destiny. However, this should also be a day to have a critical reflection on the state of the Republic which this Constitution has created. Where we are. Is everything all right? Is anything missing? And if it is missing, and if anything is not okay, what would be the root of it? Is there something that the Constitution can do about? I think it's time to also have a critical appraisal. We adore our Constitution and we remain profoundly indebted to the founding fathers. But the wisdom that they gave us, the wisdom of critical thinking, we also have a duty to look at it critically. Now, the first and foremost thing that comes is the promises that the Constitution made to its citizen. The promises that this Constitution made to the citizen of this country, republic, that it would secure justice, liberty, and equality. Promote fraternity, and provide dignity to all its citizens. To what extent these promises have been fulfilled? We are nearly 7.5 decades old republic. Nearly 7.5. It is the third generation which is now experiencing the beauty of freedom. But we know that a large section of our people, socially marginalized people, for them, these promises remain a distant dream. We know that from different parts of the country, we keep hearing stories and reading news of social discrimination, including untouchability. When it comes to equality and justice, we know that today the justice is so expensive that a person of even an average middle class may find it difficult. Why it is so? How long, how many generations the citizens of this country have to wait to see that the promises that the Constitution made are fulfilled? No doubt every instrument of the Constitution is doing a great job. We have legislature that makes laws. We have executive that enforces or implements the laws. And we have an fiercely independent judiciary that presides over the court of justice, ensures that the justice is delivered. With all these robust institutions, still a large section of our people, for them, the promises made in the Constitution remain a distant dream. Why so? When it comes to fraternity, promoting fraternity among citizens of this country, where are we? When we became independent, the country was in a bonhomie of unity. The whole country was together as one family. We fought the British. Millions of people were martyred. They gave their life. They gave their blood to fight together. What happened thereafter, after we became independent? The very first decade of independence, linguistic chauvinism emerged. And linguistic majorities started demanding a separate homeland for them. That resulted in linguistic reorganization of the country, of the states. And what was the after effect of that? The moment linguistic estates were created, a host of linguistic minorities emerged. People, those who have been living in that very place for centuries and centuries as one family together as a neighbor, they suddenly became less than equal citizens in their own homeland. We have our own example here. We had nearly more than 30% linguistic minority living in our state. They had to go to fight to Supreme Court to get a right to teach their own mother tongue in the schools run by them. Only hardly 2 months back, Supreme Court delivered a judgment in their favor. Now, we fought for independence as a family, but within no time, we started asserting certain rights of exclusivism. No, we are different. And that exclusivism created a sense of insecurity among others. What happened? That the states or the area, the people who were at the front rank of national freedom movement, a massive organized violence for separation began. We don't want to be part of India. What happened? When the people who have been living together for centuries and centuries, they started demanding ethnic homelands, and ethnic homelands were created. Several. The tribes and communities living together, they said we will not live together, and then we started creating homeland for every tribe. We have example, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram, all these ethnic homelands. And within the state, statutory ethnic homelands were created, sub-homelands. Why this intolerance? Where did the fraternity go? What happened to that fraternity? Society that lived in harmony for centuries, suddenly it has started looking for fissures to mobilize, political mobilization. Suddenly the caste became assertive, and the number of castes began multiplying. Today we have far many more number of castes than the caste which we had at the time of independence. The new castes have emerged. This social fissure, and this is unending, because the very nature of society is heterogeneous. We have a unique society. We have homogeneity in heterogeneity. We have unity in diversity. But this diversity began asserting, and we started breaking. And we don't seem to be having an end to it. It's a social fission. You know, nuclear fission. When an atom breaks, it creates huge heat energy. And it keeps breaking, it's a chain reaction. A similar chain reaction of social fission has also begun. So much for fraternity. Why so? I think it's time, because this document exists for the nation, for the people. Is there something that should be in it which is not there? Or is there something that should not be in it and it is there? Because making pious promises, it can be delusional. We know that for the justice, people have to struggle, go to the courts. Profound judgments are delivered. But when it comes to the ground, we do not see this as going anytime soon. How long these people have to wait? how many generations more when they say that yes, we got this, our justice, liberty and equality, and we are able to build the fraternity, which doesn't seem to be happening because we seem to be all struggling to have our own distinct identity. I'm fighting for that. When we look at these questions, I think it's also very, very important that we look at our great founding fathers, circumstances under which they delivered this constitution. They were people of wisdom. They are people of commitment. They had given their entire life for the freedom of the country and the remaining life after independence for the well-being of the country. Nobody can ever forget their contribution. But they worked in an extremely hostile condition, circumstances. And it is important that we know the context in which this constitution was made. That helps us in understanding that that generation did the best what they could, but the subsequent generations too have a responsibility. And what are the limitations, what are the constraints that those people had? If you look at the Constituent Assembly itself, this Constituent Assembly was not created by independent Indians of their own free will. Though the desire for a constitution was there since long, and after the Government of India Act 1935 created the provinces, again at that point of time, Indian National Congress had adopted the resolutions to have our own constitution. But that was a resolution. British were not going. It was only after the Second World War, when the war had exhausted the British, they had huge financial crisis to run the colonies, to sustain their administration, overseas establishments, that in the face of resistance of their rule within country, they started giving a thought how to go about it. And in that backdrop, after this surrender of Japan, when the war ended, in September 1945, in Britain the government changed, Labour Party came, Attlee became the Prime Minister. And they started thinking what to do, how to deal with Indian resistance. Not that they were very keen on delivering or giving us the independence. They wanted, like they were also as much as British as anyone else. But they thought how to deal with Indian resistance. And then they started giving the hope that yes, we will be okay, you can be independent, but how? Because you are fighting among yourself. Indian National Congress and Muslim League So they sent the cabinet mission. They constituted the cabinet mission and sent it to India to bring reconciliation. I said, first you reconcile, then we talk about independence. And when the mission failed, and they failed primarily because on the table they used to talk reconciliatory languages, but behind the table they used to encourage the Jinnah and his team not to agree. This double game continued. There was no reconciliation. And by mid-1946, they decided, okay, fine, you are not able to reconcile, it's okay. But you must have a constitution. you must have an acceptable constitution. And they made it conditional for giving independence. And in this backdrop, Constituent Assembly was constituted. Provincial legislatures, they sent their nominations, they are their representative, 296 of them. Princely estates, almost 560. They sent 93, put together 389 members of the Constituent Assembly. But while Constituent Assembly was being constituted in the process, the provincial legislatures and princely estates were sending their representative. Muslim League of Jinnah dropped a bomb, direct action. In August 1946, they say, we will go for direct action. That means fight in the street for separation, for partition of the country. They also said we will not join Constituent Assembly. Princely estates, they also abstained from it because they knew that after the British paramountcy lapsed, where will they go? Because they were sustained by the British as a bulwark against the national freedom. Princely estates has almost 560 of them. Some of them as small as about 10 square kilometers, a large number of them. Some of them were large enough to be the size of France. They abstained from the Constituent Assembly. And before the Constituent Assembly could meet on 9th of December, they had the first meeting, 1946, 9th of December, British put another condition. They said, any constitution so drafted will not be enforced on any unwilling part of it. I'm just trying to give you the context, the constraints under which our founding fathers had to work for this constitution that we have today. When they said it will not be enforced or will not be implemented or binding on unwilling parts of the country, it further boosted the morale of Jinnah as well as princely estates. Fine. So the Constituent Assembly met, minus these people. They drafted their own rules of business. But they were struggling, persuading all these people to come and join. Nothing much happened. While the Constituent Assembly members, especially of the Indian National Congress, they were busy trying to persuade others to come and be part of it so that the Constituent Assembly could become functional. In February 1947, there was a revolt in Royal Indian Navy. This was middle of 18th of February. Revolt lasted for about 4 days before they were persuaded to call off. All the Indian officers and soldiers, sailors of the Royal Indian Navy, they revolted, and the entire from Karachi to Chittagong, the complete sea was paralyzed. There was a resonance in the other wings of the Indian military. 150,000 Indian soldiers under leadership of Netaji had already fought the British under INA. Though they were disbanded after surrender of Japan, and many of them were made captives. But the fire that it had created among the soldiers, Indian soldiers of this British army here, they were aware of it. 150,000 Indian soldiers trained by the British, commanded by the British, they took their guns against the British. And the Indian Navy, they revolted. And British knew for certain that they were not safe. This rattled the British. And then in a haste they said, no, we are going to quit India, come what may. They said, they gave an ultimatum. In March, February this happened. March British said, we are going to quit. 15 months time, draft the constitution. If it is not, we will hand over the country to whosoever we feel, whichever hand we feel is safe, and we will leave, wholly or partially. They put all the adjectives, all the conditions. But the fact is, they put an ultimatum, giving a time limit to draft it, or we will leave. Essentially, they gave a message to the country that we are not here, we are now serious about leaving. They were afraid of resurrection, revolt by the Indian security forces. This fact has been also stated, I'm sure many of you would have read, Fali Nariman's book, The State of the Nation. When in 1955, when as a member of British Parliament, Attlee came, visited Kolkata. He was hosted, as I said, he was treated as state guest. He was hosted in Kolkata Raj Bhavan. Chief Justice Mukherjee of Calcutta High Court was the acting governor. And at the breakfast, Justice Mukherjee asked him, Mr. Attlee, I have a question. After the war, Second War, there was nothing in this country that could have compelled you to leave. Quit India movement had almost fizzled out. There was no resistance anywhere. If you wished, you could have continued for some more time. But why did you leave in a hurry? And then what Attlee told was something, a fact revealing. There he mentioned, when he mentioned about, was it non-cooperation movement with what Nari Faliman writes, that what Justice Mukherjee says, with a smirk on his face, he said, minimal. Influence of non-cooperation or decision to quit India was minimal. Then what was the compelling reason? And then he says, revolt of the Indian Navy. And earlier revolt of the Indian Army, that they were fighting the British, that no British citizen of the family felt safe in India. They had to quit India. And that was the moment when they were serious about leaving India, and then they put a condition that you must draft the constitution. Constituent Assembly got on the job. They constituted several subcommittees, several committees I should say. Constituent Assembly was one. They created several committees. Committees on estates, because they were princely estates. Provinces also to deal with. Committee on fundamental rights. Committee on minorities, because British had created so many minorities. They had created under India Council Act of 1909 separate electorate for Muslims, and by the Government of India Act 1919 separate electorate for Sikh, Christians, Anglo-Indians, Parsis. Or they would elect their own people, not through the general universal suffrage. So they had created numerous minorities within the country. So we had a committee on minority affairs. Several committees were created. And committees got on the job because British had given an ultimatum. We have to produce our document. So the committee started working on this, their respective committees started working on their documents, presuming that there would be no partition of it. Because partition of India was agreed only by middle of June, just about 2 months before independence. Until then, all the committees by and large had submitted their report, making accommodations, heavy compromises, trying to accommodate all disparate interests. Something like a common minimum program. And these committees submitted their report toward the end of October to Baba Saheb, who was the chairman of the drafting committee. And the drafting committee in the next 4 months, they did a great job bringing these together, editing, collating. because they had submitted it to B.N. Rao, constitutional advisor. We know that who he was, a renowned jurist. First was a civil servant turned jurist. He collated and edited the reports given by various committees and submitted it to the drafting committee chairman. And the chairman and the drafting committee in the subsequent 4 months, they did it and put it in 1948. By February end, they submitted the report to the Constituent Assembly. And then we all talk about Constituent Assembly debates. But a lot happened beyond the debates, beyond the hall of the Constituent Assembly. Because the draft that came draft was something which was terrible. Because in that, all these minorities, they continued insisting on continuation of separate electorate for them. Muslims to have a separate electorate, Sikhs to have separate electorate, Parsi, Anglo-Indians, Christians, all to have separate electorate. And what happened beyond the hall of the Constituent Assembly was negotiating them. It was thanks to the guts and vision of Sardar Patel and his people, his associates like K. Munshi and all, who tried, persuaded them to drop it. Because they said that, look, we have already suffered the cost. If we had to have one family, one India. We cannot have this. So there's a lot of energy spent in negotiating with all these people. And when they decided to drop the separate electorate, they put a condition that we must have a reservation for each community in the legislature, provincial as well as union. That parliament and a state assembly must have reserved seats for all these communities. Again, it was a period of hectic negotiation. The leaders were trying to persuade, bring them around. Princely estates, because in July itself, Mountbatten had made it clear, the British government had made it clear, that once the British paramountcy is lapsed, then all the princely estates will become independent. Independent 560 countries within India. And it is up to them to join any of the dominion or remain independent. It was a Herculean task. We need to be truly grateful to our founding fathers. We must be aware of the difficulties in which they worked. Negotiating with the princely estates who had become independent. Because they had all become independent countries. They were no longer princely estates. And they started negotiating. And they said, even those some of them had ambitions to be independent. But even those who came around, they said, nothing more than defense, communication and foreign. Rest all mine. Now imagine what amount of pressure our people must have been under to make them, bring them together, accept the uniform constitution, uniform law. Now after 1947, when the British left, it was not only that these princely estates had to be part of India, or they had to be persuaded to come together and merge with India. But before that, the question came that there were common services like railway, postal, highways, all crisscrossing through various princely estates. And all these, there were agreements between the crown and these estates. With the lapse of the British paramountcy, all these independent 560 countries, they were free not to allow your railway to move through them, not to allow your postal services to go through them, not to allow the use of highway through them. And so, our leaders had to struggle first to get a stand-still agreement. That what was there before, you should continue. Each one negotiated under extreme circumstances. Document came. And not only that, even within the cabinet, there were a lot of pressures. because by the time Pakistan had already captured half of Kashmir. Riots were all around. People were dying in homes. Communal frenzy. Mahatma Gandhi went on fast because at the time the cabinet decided unanimously